You know, a few years ago, buying local was absolutely the right thing to do for carbon. Now there's evidence that actually buying local does have some benefits, but it might not be carbon. You know, the debate about red meat and beef and methane from cows is new. So there's still, you know, the stuff we absolutely know, and we're not putting enough of that in the narrative at every level, completely agree. But there still needs to be some more thought about the unknown areas, the contradictions and the tensions, and where the jury's out on what low carbon looks like, especially as we go towards 80% reductions. There's still, we need to give space where we genuinely don't know should we eat less meat or not at this stage. And how do we get a clear answer on that?
Thanks. Tom?
Yeah, I think education is hugely important. I remember back to my childhood, I think most of my ideas and ideals in life were formed when I was really small, and they haven't really changed much since. So we need to improve the quality of education in primary schools to ensure that the children that are so receptive at that age to leadership and ideals and some kind of ethical parameter really get the best possible start with the full picture. I don't mean brainwashing kids when they're most receptive to it, but we really need to tell it how it is and tell it loud and clear so that they grow up with no illusions as to what they need to do about it.
Polly?
Yeah, this is about embedding principles very early on, isn't it? And it's starting to happen. It's interesting. You know, schools are talking about climate change. There are now various green programs and what have you. We're going to have a whole new, interesting generation coming up behind us that are far more informed, far more technological savvy. I have a 4-year-old niece who, you know, knows the inside out of my iPhone better than I do. They're going to bring great opportunities with them as well. So yes, absolutely. That will help shape our new world that really is coming very, very fast. Yeah.
Matt?
I thought that was a very good question, actually, and my mind immediately fell to the higher education sector, and I was sort of thinking about academics and the way that they go about their work, and really I think the drivers behind the higher education funding councils and really where they set their priorities, and ultimately, again, we're coming back to government. So clearly, huge role, generation of knowledge, vital, but, you know, again, you know, it's part of the picture, and yeah, I mean, there's some interesting thoughts on that the panel have given.
Great. I think the lady in the red jacket had a question there.
Yes, it links to your question, but I was going to ask the role of the media.
What is the role of the media in reducing carbon emissions? Matt?
Cheers. That's another really nice question. I like it. I mean, what are the media there for? I think, okay, so I think the biggest challenge with the media right now is their freedom of speech, basically, and is, again, their funding. So as advertising revenue drops, we're all worried about kind of state intervention into our media, and that would be a bad thing. So its freedom is vitally important, but that also means it's free to express opinions that maybe don't have an evidence base that the academics might have, and communicate that more freely and widely, and to big impact. And we all know about the climate swindle and all the rest of it that I'm sure we're all very unhappy about. But their remit is to get people talking, and that's a challenging one, isn't it?
Polly?
I don't watch television. I don't listen to the radio. I don't read newspapers. I don't deal with any of this. I don't have time in my life. And do you know, life is so much better for it. My advice would be is don't bother listening to the news. Make up your own mind. Become informed. I get environmental updates, of course. I'm dealing with international legislative stuff. But I don't deal with news per se. The big stuff, people do tell me. My friends tell me if something good's coming along. But there's an awful lot of noise and radar clutter out there. You know, work out what's important in your life and leave the rest. That's my advice.
Tom, what is the role of the media in reducing carbon emissions?
I think the media could make a big difference by looking at what they write in their newspapers or online and looking at the advertisers that advertise with them. I remember reading a Guardian article last year about how the Greenland ice sheet is melting at faster rate than anyone thought, and it's going to be a total disaster. And then opposite, on the facing page, was flights for 30 different European destinations. Not just an advert for it, but it was a Guardian reader offer. And if you went on Ryanair's website and clicked this link and whatever and put in your Guardian code, you could get all over the place for virtually nothing. And it just seemed crazy that they're reporting doom and gloom and the end of the world on one side, and rather than reporting a nice initiative of some local group that have done something amazing to help solve the problem, they've got an advert on the other side for something that's just making it worse. So I think that's what they should look at and they should change.
Responsibility. Alan?
This is a complicated one because there's the public service of the media, which is to inform, educate, bring people up to date. And I really feel for people like the BBC who have to be impartial and at the same time get across a message. And I think the carbon swindle fiasco was very useful in actually getting people to think about, it is legitimate for a broadcaster to report another opinion. But how do you do that in such a way that it doesn't actually become the informed opinion and therefore everybody says, well, I just saw a programme, it isn't true, is it? I think the advertising one, again, is a point well made, but very difficult to apply because the danger is if you push that philosophy on them too much, they'll say, well, okay, then I won't carry the stories, because I need advertising. So it could work the other way because the media at the moment are funded by advertising more than by sales. So I say, okay then, if you want me to be consistent with my advertising and my narrative, I will shape my narrative around my advertising, which will be terrible. So again, it sounds right until you're the poor guy who's got to make that Guardian profitable. And it's hard. And also people fly, and people have a right to know what flight services are available, and we do that through advertising. It's the way the economy works. It's the way the markets work. So it feels right. The only way we would have what you're saying is, and these magazines do exist, like The Ecologist, is we have an editorial which reflects, and we have an advertising policy which reflects the editorial. So only buy those magazines.
Great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our allotted time for discussing this question.